Hello friends, Sangeeta here. Welcome to Tilted Planet episode 15. In the past episode, I talked about Kashmir and identity myopia. In this episode, I am going to shed light on another very important topic, Kashmir and the White Jesus syndrome. I originally talked about White Jesus syndrome or WSJ in episode 3 and 4, but I am going to refine my definition now. The White Jesus syndrome is when the Western powers feel entitled to appropriate, own, or discard any resources or ideas of the rest of the world as they wish. It is a result of centuries of colonization. Now let's come back to Kashmir and India. June 22nd, 1757. The East India Company won the Battle of Plassey against Siraj-ud-Dowla by deceit. Within the next 100 years, they had acquired by deceit and by force this much of India. And that's when in 1857, the Sepoy Mutiny happened. Sepoy Mutiny, 1857, Hindus and Muslims fighting shoulder to shoulder against the British. The British won nevertheless. But from that point on, they started their divide and rule policies. In 1905, Lord Curzon divided Bengal on the communal lines. In 1906, Muslim League was formed as a political party in India. In 1907, Napoleon and Russian Tsar Alexander I hatched a plan to join forces to attack India and snatch it from the British. Well, Napoleon and the Tsar ended up falling out, but Russia continued its conquest on its own. They had the advantage because they had the land access to India, and the British were paranoid about this. The political and diplomatic confrontation ensued between the British and the Russia, and that is more commonly known as the Great Game, and the Russians call it the Tournament of the Shadows, but I have renamed it as 19th century Anglo-Russian Cold War or the 19th Kark W. As you can see in this map, this region of today's Pakistan was critical for the British to guard against the Russians in the 19th Kark W. Then started what is commonly known as the World War I, which I have renamed as First European War of the 20th century, First EWTC. By the way, why do I rename the wars? It is because I am fighting WSJ. You can watch my previous episodes on more information on how I have renamed the wars and why, episode 3 and 4. So by the time first EWTC started, the Indian National Congress was already fighting the British occupation with peaceful means, and they had the support of the masses in India. The British asked Indian National Congress for their cooperation and help in that war and promised a greater autonomy after the war. Of course, the promise was never kept. Then came what is commonly known as the World War II. I renamed that as Second European War of the 20th century, Second EWTC. Having learned its lessons, the Indian National Congress decided not to cooperate. Now on the Indian subcontinent, the British badly needed the land and the people that were not hostile to them, and they would help them get the manpower and the resources they needed for 19th Kark W as well as for 2nd EWTC. This is exactly where the Muslim League came in handy, and the idea of Pakistan became a reality at that point. Now we come to the post-independence era in India. Since 1947, Pakistan is a much smaller country compared to India. She is also much poorer and less developed than India. So how is it that she has been able to bleed India in Kashmir for 70 years? Answer: White Jesus syndrome. Now America needed Pakistan in their war against Russia. So see the theme here that we don't notice. First EWTC, the war was outsourced to India and other colonies too. What I am saying in the example of India and Kashmir also applies to the rest of the colonies and the rest of the world as well. So first EWTC or World War I, war was outsourced to India and other colonized countries. Second EWTC or World War II, the war was outsourced to Pakistan, today's Pakistan. Then America-Russia Cold War or the proxy war, the war was outsourced to Afghanistan and Pakistan, among other places. In these outsourced wars, America put their stooges in power in Pakistan, and the techniques they used against India were at the time not recognized by the West as terrorism. 9/11 changed the Western perception of what terrorism was. All of a sudden, Pakistan lost its utility to America and she was asked to choose, are you with us or against us? And here we are today. The Modi government has abrogated Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir. There are lots of questions about how they did it, lots of detentions, lots of blackouts, and yet the West barely blinked. As far as India is concerned, the international atmosphere, and given that India has a single party majority after decades, means that they have a once in a lifetime opportunity to consolidate their position in Kashmir and in the region. But do not rejoice yet. Notice the pitfall. These are all our stories, the stories of the humanity combined. We need to forget and forgive, but learn the lesson. India, trade carefully, because the West now needs a new country to outsource their potential war with China. They need a new battleground. They need a fresh blood. Do not be that.